Once again, we will find out if I'm broadcasting or not. I hesitate to start talking because I've started talking so many times already this afternoon, only to turn around and discover that I'm not broadcasting. So forgive me for my silence. I've switched devices twice, switched wireless channels, and a whole bevy of other things that I've done today to try to rectify this most egregious development, all to no avail so far. So hey, okay, we got one person, so we must be broadcasting. Hello, thank you for joining me. My name's Dan. Maybe you know that, maybe you don't. Be that as it may. My name is still Dan, even if you don't know that. And I'm painting traffic. Here is the photograph that I'm working from today. And we will find out if I do a whole bunch of these. I have a number of other photographs that 5 others that I've selected out of more than 100 that I've taken over the last 100 pictures I've taken over the last year and a half, I think, maybe, of just that, traffic, sitting at a stoplight, suddenly realizing that everything I'm looking at is really quite beautiful. So having the presence of mind to grab my phone and take a picture. And after amassing a fair number of beautiful pictures of traffic, I'm finally ready to start painting some. So I'm excited about that. It's been a very difficult day of technical problems. My deepest apologies for that. I mentioned earlier that I want my renderings of these cars. In fact, I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm actually going to erase one of the lines I just made because I'm afraid if I don't, I will just confuse myself later when I'm trying to figure out which is the correct line. I want the automobiles in these paintings to be quite accurate, and yet at the same time, I want the paintings to be quite very much loose in their, so accurate but messy. It's the word I often use, messy. Accurate drawings. That line is not right, so hang on here. Yeah, there we go. Once again, I'm going to erase a little line that I just made. I don't usually recommend erasing unless, because the erroneous marks become just part of the busyness and chaos that serves you well in the later stages of the painting. However, there's one exception to that guideline, and that is if the erroneous marks are truly going to confuse you, like you're not sure that you'll remember which one is right and which one is wrong when you come back to it later, then I give you, those of you who may try to be influenced by me, permission to erase lines. Of course, in acrylics, you need to do it pretty quickly. Otherwise, there's no erasing to be had. Now, I will add that even though I want my automobiles in these paintings to be accurate, I don't want to trigger necessarily. I'm not going to try, and really hope not to trigger car fanatics. Oh, cool! It's a 2014 Honda GX43 with a 317 with a. I'm saying being silly. Any car person would know. I'm just saying a bunch of stupid stuff. That's what I don't want. I don't want to attract that audience. First of all, because I won't paint up to their standards, and secondly, that's not the point at all. I want it to look like typical cars, just typical ordinary cars that you see on the American road. In a way, this impulse to paint is what I'm calling painting traffic, is quite counter to, say, the Thomas Kinkade tendency to paint sentimental, right? Thomas Kinkade would paint horses and buggies or old cars and so forth. Real nostalgic stuff. That might be the best word. I am not at all interested in painting nostalgia. Although ironically, if these paintings are good and if they are in existence 50 or 100 years from now, they will in fact be nostalgic. So that's a funny irony that you can't get away from. But I am not attempting to paint images that'll make people today go, oh, my daddy had a car like that. It's not what I'm after. I'm after these are not pretty pictures. These are beautiful paintings. There's a big difference between beautiful, pretty pictures and beautiful paintings. Everything I'm painting here, all the objects, especially the cars, are simply a thinly veiled excuse for line, shape, color, design, value, texture, and so forth. They're thinly veiled cover-up excuse for the elements of design. And I'm already into trouble rendering this car. There's something not right. In fact, I think on both cars, I think there's something seriously not quite right about both of them. So I've got my work cut out for me. The wheels are gigantic, way too big. Let me use some. So the roof, according to this, is right about there. That part's right. And there's another car behind here, and then there's a van, which I do want to include, parked in front of the building, the restaurant or something. Again, a little part of my hope is sort of a secondary hope, is that people will be able to see in very ordinary scenes the beauty that already exists in their life. They won't feel like they have to go to, Banff or Niagara Falls to see a beautiful picture. That they'll realize they're surrounded by beauty every day of their lives. They don't have to take trips to go away to see beautiful things. It's all around them all the time. Whew. Am I broadcasting? I am. Well, how about that? It's been a long, difficult afternoon in the technology department. I was on the phone with AT&T for about 45 minutes. They did several tests, and so on and so on and so forth. And and still I'm having challenges. So I don't want to give the impression that I'm doing ads for car manufacturers. Okay, given the amount of work I need to do, and given the amount of work that the amount of problems I've had broadcasting this afternoon, I'm going to take a break pretty soon. I might try to do a little bit more before you leave me, or I leave you, as the case may be. Sure, I'll do a little bit more. Let's see if it continues to broadcast. Let's hope for the best. Next thing I'm going to do is some large glazes. Now, again, those of you who follow me all the time, you've seen me do this many times, so no surprises here. But just in case, again, there's anybody new, let me explain a couple of things. Let me put on my teacher hat for a minute. Very important. Anytime that you draw, I call this drawing, of course, drawing with brushes. Anytime that you draw on your canvas, you're putting yourself in grave danger. Did I make that sound scary enough? You're putting yourself in a very risky position, because once there are lines, even if they're kind of fat and colorful lines like this, once there are lines on the canvas, you are gravely tempted to color in the lines, to revert to your 4th grade year and to begin coloring in the lines. So let me demonstrate to you how I am very, very careful not to do that. I'm trying to decide what colors to start with. There's a lot of green in this photograph. Green roof, green trees, blue down here, and the sky has no color whatsoever. What do I have here? Is it a pouring medium? No, gloss medium. Good, good, good. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to start by doing some red and orange way up there in the sky. And anytime that you want to make a very thin glaze or wash, you can't use water, because if you use too much water, everything that you put on the canvas will just literally run down the canvas and disappear on you. Okay, so this is what I wanted to model before we start in this broadcast. And again, especially for those of you who might be a little bit new to my broadcast, this is the way we do glazes. Big brushes, sloppy paint, and most certainly not even the slightest hint, if you will, of painting in the lines. I'm painting in general zones, like there's a green zone. See this tree? So I want greenish stuff up here. But again, most people would stick out their tongue and start going along the side of that building. No, 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 no. This is a green zone. You just paint the zone green. You don't pay any attention to the lines. And by the way, of course, I am, as you can see, painting with very, very transparent colors. All of my paints already have medium in them, and then I'm adding more medium to them so that they can go on even thinner, and a little bit of, so this is the roof of that building. It's important then that the colors I'm putting on here, it is important that they're transparent, because you can see all of my lines, all of the drawing that I did, that I spent many minutes doing. I don't want to lose all that information, all that visual information. So I'm putting very transparent colors onto the canvas, and you can still see all of my earlier drawing lines. I think that'll make sense to you. Does it? I'm expecting that it does. Let me do, just before I go, I'm thinking just a hint of purple, partly just because there isn't much purple on here yet. The problem with that is a lot of that's just going to run down. So let me change gears, do what I mentioned a while ago, add medium to my brushes so that the colors are thinned out by medium instead of by water. Because if you use too much water, it just does like that, just all runs down and disappears on you. Runs onto the floor in my case. Okay. So probably the next thing I'm going to do is, and then I'm saying, can I keep going? I might as well. The broadcast seems to be working, so I will just keep going, picking up some smaller brushes. Not small, but smaller. And I'm now going to do white. Anything that's light colored in the photograph now, I will. The lightest, brightest thing is this clock face right there. And then there is light under the awning porch of that charming little store, restaurant. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's a store. It doesn't quite look like a restaurant. This photograph was taken in Pinehurst, I think, either Sandy Pines or Pinehurst, North Carolina. Pinehurst, I believe. But it's not a terribly romantic scene. It's a picture of a parking lot. But I must like it quite a bit because it beat out over 100 other photographs for the privilege of being the first traffic painting I'm doing in this series. I always enjoy this white phase, the white stage of the painting process because your eye picks up so many different details. When you look at the photograph, when you look at your reference, when you're painting the light stuff, your eye tends to see very different things than you saw when you were just outlining, sort of focused on dark edges of things. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but at least it is the case for me. I'm now focused on the light objects in my reference photo, and because of that, my eye picks up a very different details, different aspects of the scene than I did when I was drawing with dark colors. And it's always just so fun to add light. Light is fun. I'll probably do at least 2 layers of white, very possibly in this painting, because it's fairly complex subject matter. Very likely that I'll actually do 3 layers of white in acrylics before I go to oils. come back down to the bottom of the painting now. Way down here. And of course, as I said, I don't rely on, I don't count on, I don't trust the marks that I made earlier. At no point, and in other words, I don't put my weight down. I don't color in the lines. Like I just raised this car up about 1/2 inch, which is not an insignificant amount in a painting, in a image that size, right? So, but then next time I come to this car, I won't trust these lines either. I continue to edit, to make corrections and refinements throughout the entire painting process, all the way down to what I call the final edit, which is just like it sounds, the final edit. Part of the reason why I'm using such large brushes. They're small compared to what I started out with, right? I started out with these and actually started out with a rag, painting with a rag, but these are still fairly large, and certainly large compared to what most other people paint with. Somebody's home. Hey. Hello. Thanks. Okay. Now there is, of course, a row of shops or something in the distance down here with lights and another truck right there. More traffic. Now, when I finish this white layer, I do need to pause and let this dry, because I can paint wet in I can paint white into wet, but you can't paint color into wet white. I said that right. You'll have to repeat it a couple times before you understand what I'm saying. But I do know the next thing I'm going to do, and I don't need to wait for it to dry. The next thing I'm going to do on this painting is black pencils. And again, if you're new to this channel, you're saying, what? Pencils? Right. Black pencils. And I'll probably do that on my own time. These are the pencils I'm talking about, made by Jerry's Artorama. Jumbo Jet Black. And I use the pencils mostly because I like the texture that they create. But they also help, of course, with rendering. So as I draw with pencils, again, I'll be making corrections, especially on these cars, moving lines, trying to get them more accurate, but throughout the whole painting. Yeah. I like it so far. I'm sure that's good news to you. As long as I'm happy, that's what we really care about. Thanks for watching. I might be back later tonight. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.